everyone, and thank you for joining me today. My name is Eve, and we will be going through a gentle hip opening flow. All you'll need is yourself, comfortable clothing, a mat, perhaps a bottle of water, and then if you'd like, you can always grab a pillow, a block, or a blanket for some added support. And know that you're always welcome to take the variation or the version of a pose that works best for you. With that, we'll get right into class and we'll start today in wide-legged child's pose. Know that you're always welcome to start in an easy seat if that is a better position for you. For our wide-legged child's pose, we'll come onto all fours. Knees can draw away from each other, working their way to the outer parts of your mat. If they don't get all the way there, know that that's okay. Big toes are working to come together. When you are ready, weight begins to shift back towards your heels. Hands might walk out in front of you, perhaps head comes down to the floor, or we might bring our forehead down to a block. Know that at any time throughout class, you're more than welcome to adjust when necessary or when you'd like to. And know that you can either have your toes tucked or untucked in your child's pose. We'll begin to come to our breath. I invite you to practice drawing your breath down into the bottom of your lungs. Feel your stomach expand out towards your legs or down towards your mat. And as you exhale, release any tension that we might be holding along our back. Take 3 more rounds of breath. When you're ready, begin to make your way back up into your tabletop. If you're in an easy seat, begin to make your way onto your hands and knees. Knees come to be stacked below the hips, hands come to be stacked below the shoulders, and know that you're always welcome to find added support by folding the front of your mat over once or twice or the middle of your mat over for your knees. Hands are spread wide like starfish, finger pads grip the floor, and we'll begin to move into some gentle shifting of our weight. Perhaps this starts as front to back. Maybe we play around with tucking the toes and then untucking the toes. And if you'd like to add some more movement, perhaps we begin to make a semicircle by shifting our weight out to the left to center, back and to the right. And we might reverse our direction as well. One more round of breath. Wherever you're at, begin to make your way back towards center. Grip the floor with your finger pads, and we'll move into our cat and cow poses. For cow pose, inhale, begin to draw the torso down towards your mat. Gaze might look forward. And for cat, exhale, begin to round the spine up towards the sky. Inhale for cow. And exhale for cat. One more round of breath. When you're ready, begin to make your way back towards stillness, finding a nice long and flat back. We'll move into some more weight shifting. This time we'll come into wagging our tail, And we'll just wave our hips from side to side or our sit bones behind us. Some of us might feel a gentle stretch along the side of our body or along the side of where our hips and our legs meet. One more breath. When you're ready, come back towards center, find stillness, find your nice long and flat back. Sometimes it's helpful to rest your hand on your back, and we'll move into some leg movement. For our leg movement, we'll start with the right hand side. Right knee begins to hover. We can stay here, or we can begin to extend the right leg long behind you. We might stay in stillness, or we might play around with some toe taps. Our toe taps can either go straight up and down, or we can play around with tapping the back two corners of our mat. And we can add in the upper body, the head and the neck, by looking over our shoulders as we tap to their respective sides. One more round of breath. Wherever you're at, make your way back to center. Knee comes back down to the floor. And we'll make our way back into a quick round of child's pose. Knees can either be together or apart. Feel free to roll out the wrists. On your next inhale, make your way back up into your tabletop. And we'll switch to our left hand side. This time, left knee begins to hover. Perhaps we stay here. We might play around with extending the leg long. And we might come back to our straight up and down toe taps. Or again, we always have the option to add some added movement by tapping the back two corners of our mat. We might even bring back the gaze, looking over each shoulder. Know that you're welcome to have a slight bend in your leg or bring your knee a little bit closer in towards your torso. Keep pushing the floor away with your fingertips. One more breath. When you're ready, make your way back towards center. Knee comes back down, and feel free to come back into your child's pose. Roll out the wrists. Take 2 more rounds of breath. When you're ready, find stillness. Weight begins to shift back forward into your tabletop. And we'll come into what I like to call dog meets fire hydrant. For this, we're practicing keeping the torso squared to the floor, hands grip the floor, our core is active, and we're also working on activating the muscles in our glutes. We'll start with the left hand side. So finger pads ground down, left knee begins to hover. And when you're ready, we'll begin to draw the knee out towards its respective side, working to keep the pelvis neutral. When you're ready, knee comes back to center, and we can continue to flow at our own pace. Work to keep the torso square to your mat. If we find that we have any leaning or shifting to one side, know that we have gone too far into the pose, and we need to come back a little bit lower. This helps us to activate the muscles in our glutes rather than using a different part of our body to do the work for the glutes. One more breath. When you're ready, come back towards tabletop. Feel free to find some wagging of your tail, letting the sit bones go from side to side. And when you're ready, come back towards center, finding stillness. We'll switch to the right hand side. This time, right knee begins to hover. Practice engaging the core, belly button pulls in towards your spine, and then knee can draw out towards its respective side, and then back to center. Again, we're practicing finding activation in the glutes. For some of us, we might even find activation in our leg that is grounded as it's stabilizing or helping to stabilize our body. Keep lengthening through the crown of your head. One more round of breath. When you're ready, come back towards center, knee comes back down to the floor. Feel free to roll out the wrists. When you're ready, hands can come back down to the floor, and feel free to come back to some weight shifting, whether that's wagging the tail, shifting back and forth, or shifting from side to side. When you're ready, come back towards stillness, and we'll begin to make our way into our lizard pose. For lizard pose, we can unfold our mat, or you can always find a cushion to come underneath your knee, and I always like to have my block nearby. There are a couple ways to get into lizard pose. I personally like to come through tabletop. You're welcome to come through three-legged dog or downward facing dog. And so we'll start with the left hand side. Left knee begins to hover. I like to extend my left leg long behind me first, and then exhale, knee comes in towards the torso, round the spine, and we might begin to walk the hands slightly back to draw the foot forward. From here, we can begin to walk our left foot forward towards the top edge of our mat, and if we'd like to increase the stretch in our inner thigh, we can begin to walk the foot towards its respective side of the mat. From here, you're welcome to find a block. I like to use it to bring the floor to my hands. And then we might even increase our stretch along the right hip flexor, or the space where our torso and our leg meet across the front of the hip or the front of the body. We can begin to shift the weight forward. And if you'd like to further increase your stretch from here, we might begin to work our way down onto our forearms. My flexibility isn't quite there yet, so I like to again bring my hands to my block. Take 2 more rounds of breath. If you're on your forearms, gently allow yourself to come back upright. I like to shift my weight back upright, move my block out of the way, and then if your foot is out towards its respective side, draw it back towards center, and we'll begin to make our way onto the right hand side. You're welcome to stay upright. Otherwise, if you'd like to stay more in a kneeling position, you can use a wall or something sturdy, your block, to draw the knee back down. And then hands might come back down to the floor. For the right hand side, right foot can either move its way out in front of you, or we can come from tabletop. Right knee begins to hover, right leg can go long. Exhale, knee comes in towards your nose, round the spine up towards the sky. We might begin to lift the torso slightly to allow the foot to come out in front of us. Again, from here, you're welcome to begin to walk the foot a little bit closer towards the top edge of your mat, and then walk the right foot out to the right hand side. And if you have a block, feel free to bring that out in front of you as well. From here, feel free to increase your stretch by leaning slightly forward. Perhaps we continue to walk the foot out towards its respective side. And again, we're working to find a stretch on the inner thigh of the front leg or the bent knee, or the leg with the bent knee. And we might even find a stretch along the front of our leg that's grounded on the floor. Feel free to come back down onto your hands, onto your forearms, or hands can come to a block. I invite you to come back to the rhythm of your breathing. Take 2 more rounds of breath. If you're on your forearms, gently allow yourself to come back upright. Weight might shift slightly back. And then we'll begin to draw the foot back towards center. And we'll make our way back down into our tabletop. So again, leg can begin to shift back, and you're always welcome to use your block, something sturdy next to you to give you support. Block can come back out to the side of your mat. And from tabletop, we'll come back into some weight shifting, waving the hips from side to side. One more breath. When you're ready, come back towards center, and we'll begin to make our way into an easy seat. For an easy seat, I like to get there by shifting my weight to one side and then drawing my legs out in front of me. From here, we'll make our way into 90-90. Sometimes it's called deer pose. So for deer pose, we'll start by drawing the right shin to face the long edge of your mat. And then we'll work on drawing the left shin to face the short edge or the front edge of your mat. From here, we're working to draw our pelvis back towards neutral. Don't worry, my sit bones don't come down to the floor. If you find that you're having a little lifting, we can draw our sit bones closer to the floor by drawing our heels in towards our pelvis. Even from here, I tend to have a little bit of lifting. I find that it helps to elevate the hips, and I do that either by sitting on a block, folding my mat over a couple times. And from here, we can increase our stretch in our left outer hip by inhaling to lengthen up and then exhaling to fold forward. Hands can come down to the floor. They might come down to a block or a pillow. Take 2 more rounds of breath. If you're on your forearms or leaning over, gently allow yourself to come back upright, and we'll make our way back towards center. Right leg can come back forward, left knee can go back up towards the sky, and from here we'll come into some windshield wipers. For our windshield wipers, hands can come to the side or just behind you for support. Feet can either be together or they can draw out towards their respective sides. When you're ready, knees begin to wave from side to side. It's okay if we have a little bit of lifting in the sit bones. Knees don't need to come all the way down to the floor. Our purpose with this movement here is to gently bring some movement back into the pelvis. When you're ready, come back towards stillness, and we'll switch to our opposite side. This time, left shin is working to be parallel to the long edge of your mat, and right shin is working to be parallel to the front edge of your mat. Again, we might play around with drawing our heels a little closer to our pelvis. And we might even play around with lifting the pelvis by sitting on a block, a pillow, folding the mat over once or twice. And if you'd like to increase your stretch, we'll inhale to lengthen up through your spine, and exhale, begin to hinge. This time we're working on finding a stretch in the right outer hip. If you're familiar with pigeon pose or figure 4, we're working to find a similar stretch to those. However, we also might find some stretching along our inner thigh or any movement in our legs, since this is an atypical position for many of us in our daily life. Take 2 more rounds of breath. If you're folded forward or on your forearms, allow yourself to gently come back upright, and we'll make our way back to center, and we'll find some windshield wipers once more. Find your foundation, feet can either be together or apart, and then knees can begin to wave from side to side. One more round of breath. When you're ready, come back towards stillness, and we'll begin to make our way back into our child's pose. Again, you're welcome to come back into an easy seat if that works better for you today. To get there, weight can begin to shift to one side, hands can begin to come out in front of you, weight shifts onto the knees, and feel free to adjust onto your mat where you're comfortable. Knees can either be together, or I invite you to draw them slightly out to their respective sides. And on your next exhale, weight shift back towards your heels. Hands can begin to reach towards the top of your mat. If you'd like a quick side body reach, on your next inhale, gently walk your hands slightly to the right, feeling a stretch in the left side body. Some people feel it more along their shoulder, others feel it more along their torso. One more breath. When you're ready, make your way back towards center. And then on your next inhale, gently walk your way towards the left-hand side of your mat, feeling a gentle stretch along the right side of your body. Two more rounds of breath. When you're ready, gently make your way back towards center, and hands might begin to walk their way towards the top edge of your mat, increasing the stretch along your back and in your shoulders. Arms can begin to relax, and you're welcome to stay in your child's pose. Otherwise, feel free to come into an easy seat, and we'll take the next few moments to check in with ourselves and with our breathing. Perhaps you come back to your deep belly breathing. Practice drawing your breath down into the bottom of your lungs. Feel your stomach expand, then your ribs, and finally your chest. Exhale as normal. If you're in child's pose, gently allow your weight to shift back forward into your tabletop.
And whether we're seated or in tabletop, gently allow some movement to come back into your body. If we're in tabletop, work your way back towards stillness and then back into an easy seat. Weight might shift to one side, legs can come out in front of you, and an easy seat looks a little bit different for everyone. I always like to wrap up class with 3 breaths together. If you'd like to join me, we'll sit up a little bit taller, let everything out. Arms can come out to your sides, and inhale to reach up towards the sky, and exhale back down. Inhale to reach, exhale back down. Last breath, inhale. And when you're ready, let everything go. Thank you so much for joining me today and for practicing with me.